Hello, travelers. Welcome to Reach the World's Explorer program. For over 20 years, Reach the World has inspired youth to become curious, confident, and compassionate global citizens, all through the use of virtual exchange. My name is Tim, and I am so glad you're joining us for today's live stream event, because today we're kicking off a brand new virtual exchange expedition to Mexico with explorer, researcher, Fulbright grantee Jane Vineski. I'm so happy to have her here today to talk about some of the work that she's doing in Mexico. I don't want to spoil what she's going to talk about today, but if you've read some of her articles on her virtual exchange homepage, you may have a clue that I think we're going to look to the underwater world today and talk a little bit about some of the cool things that are living in the water around Mexico. So without further delay, I would like to welcome Jane to Reach the World. Hey, Jane.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell
Thanks
us
for
a
having me.
little bit about yourself, where you are right now, and what you're up to?
Sure. So I'm currently located in La Paz, Baja California Sur. It is in the southern end of the Baja Peninsula. So if you know where the U.S. state of California ends, that's where Baja begins. So I am down at the tip of the Baja Peninsula in La Paz. I drove down here with my dog, Diego. It took us 10 days from Ohio. And we are stationed here because I am going to be working on a research project as a Fulbright grantee over the next 2 years. I'm studying what might be a new species of manta ray in the Mexican Caribbean, which is really exciting. I mean, for researchers, but also just for regular people, because it's such an exciting thing that's been hiding in plain sight for years. You know, we thought that they were oceanic mantas or reef mantas. There's kind of been a mix of the two, what we thought, but it turns out genetic differentiation exists, and we think that we have a whole new species. So I am contributing to an effort that has been undertaken by many people over the last 5 years that have contributed. I'm so sorry, my dogs are here, so if you hear any stray barking, that's them. And so this effort is a collaborative effort from photographers and local guides and other scientists and other students. So I'm really excited to be here contributing to this effort, because it's really important that we figure out where the mantas are going and how the mantas live, just so we can protect them better. So I will be spending the next 2 years between here, La Paz, which is on the west coast of Mexico, and my study site in the Caribbean, which is on the east coast of Mexico. So I'm really lucky to have some travel involved as well.
That is amazing, Jane. It's so exciting to be on the cusp of this virtual exchange
Yeah.
adventure with you, because what you're doing in Mexico is so cool. You have prepared some photos that you want to share with us that will help us sort of understand how you got to where you are. So I'm going to add those here,
Yeah.
and maybe you can tell us what we're looking at.
Yeah. So this is just a picture from my childhood, but I was telling Tim, this is an accurate representation of how I was as a kid. You know, I never wanted to be in nice clothes. I never wanted to be taking pictures. I just wanted to be outside. I just wanted to be outside looking for snakes and mice and rats. And I actually had pet rats, pet mice, snakes, birds, spiders, everything you can imagine. So my parents didn't love that, but I loved that. So I have not changed that much from then to now. But yeah, this is how I was. So if you're like this sometimes or often, that's okay too. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen Dr. Dolittle, or if I'm showing my age, but I was obsessed with animals. And Dr. Dolittle is a movie about a veterinarian that can talk to animals. And I wanted that so bad. You know, I was always going around talking to animals. I'm like, they don't understand me, but here I am anyways. I just wanted to be as close to them as possible, and I wanted to understand them as much as possible. And again, not much has changed. Just the animals have. So this is a photo from Puerto Rico. I took this on the day that I first ever scuba dived, for the first time in my life. It was actually totally by accident. I was buying postcards in a dive shop, and someone asked me if I was going out diving that day. And at that point, I had never even been snorkeling before, but I was like, that sounds cool. Diving, I can do that. So I tried it, and it was the best thing ever. You know, we went down there, and I could hear humpback. Sorry if you hear Diego and Kiko playing right now, guys. I have some biscuits to motivate them, but it only works for so long. But I heard humpback whales singing, and I saw sharks and just so many fish. And it was totally life-changing for me, because I was like, my whole life I didn't know that this was out there and that this existed. And here was this whole other world that I didn't know anything about. And basically from that day forward, I was just like, I want to know everything that I can. I want to be as like, much as possible underwater. And so I changed my whole life to go back and learn how to be a marine scientist. And this is the beginning, I guess. Well, this is not the beginning of my journey, but this was a big change. And this is me in my first research job ever with Whale Shark Mexico. They're also based here in La Paz, Baja California. We've been investigating whale sharks here for like 20 years, and I was lucky enough to contribute on this project as a research intern. And this was just a typical day out in the field. I got to spend a lot of time in the water with the whale sharks, and that was where it all started to like click into place for me, and where I was like, I'm really in the right place, I'm doing the right thing, and I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. And this is me with one of the whale sharks. His name is Urano. And so we know that the difference is by name, because if you see the spots on the shark, whale sharks are born with a certain pattern of spots that doesn't change throughout their entire life, right? So you imagine the shark is born about 60 centimeters, which we'll use inches and feet in the US, but like this, right? Can you see? Like this big. So they're born with a pattern of spots, and it doesn't change their entire life. And these sharks get up to like 60 feet long. So it's amazing. But that's how we identify them. I'm so sorry, Diego. Basta, Kiko, basta. And so here I am measuring the length of the fin. That's one of the ways that we can tell what the shark is mature or not. Usually we do a measurement up like this and down for the fin. But Urano was in a small boat strike, which is unfortunately a consequence of humans being near to the sharks. And so sometimes they encounter boat strikes, but that's why his fin is a little collapsed. But he did heal, and he's been doing well. So good news. And this is just some of the work I do not in the field. So a big misconception about marine science is that we're out snorkeling every day. A joke that some of my family likes to make is like that I just hang out on the beach and kick around in the water all day, but I don't. It's still work. So it's really, really cool, but it's work. So here is some of the work on my computer, and I was a research assistant for the Marine Megafauna Foundation. And what's really cool about technology now is that they're based in Mozambique, and I was able to work on this project from Cleveland. So the photo on the left is of a leopard shark. I helped them to build a leopard shark database. And on the right is my dog Diego assisting in some research. So that's what's different, I guess, about science. It's a common misconception about marine science that it's all outdoors. It's always pretty exciting, but there is also a lot of Diego and Kiko. There's also a lot of work that you do at home that no one sees. That's just as important, if not more important. And so this is me and my mom and my sister. They've been some of my biggest supporters on this entire journey. But this was actually another kind of pivotal moment for me, because this is before I left for Ecuador, where I studied in the Amazon and in the Galapagos. And so I had to fit everything for 4 months into that backpack. If you can imagine how heavy that backpack is, or just all the things you use in 4 months, I had all of it. So this is them seeing me off. This was last fall, actually. And I couldn't have been anywhere where I am without their support. And so this is a photo of my work in the Amazon. I was using fish scales as biological indicators of pollution. So if you know, like when petroleum comes from the earth and when it's extracted, contaminants and pollutants get into the soil and water. And because fish spend so much time, obviously, in the water, they're a great way to use to measure the level of contamination. So I was using fish scales to see like what kind of contamination had occurred at a lake in the Amazon rainforest. And this is just a picture from the fish market where I was gathering some data as part of that study. And getting closer to present day, this is from Diego and I's 10-day road trip to Baja. This is from a place in Baja Norte called Valley of the Giants, and it's just a place with gigantic saguaro cactuses. So I've been having a lot of adventures with Diego over the years. He comes along a lot of the times. So this is just us on our way down to Baja to do the work that we're doing now. That I'm doing now. Diego's not working, sorry. And finally, this is today. Obviously, I couldn't be here without the support of the Fulbright organization, because they've helped to facilitate my life in Mexico, like some of the really important logistic things. And the Fulbright mission is just it's similar to Reach the World, actually. It's just about to like facilitate intercultural exchange for kinder and more friendly and more informed people so that we can all like collectively as a whole work together better, get along better. And so I'm really lucky to be a Fulbright grantee, and they're supporting me in this project throughout the next 2 years here in La Paz.
All right, Jane, thank you so much. What a great sort of way to bring us up to speed on where you've come from and some of the cool things you've done along the way. You were just this past week doing something really cool. Can you tell us about where you went over the last couple of days?
Yes, so I actually got to be in the field this week. There's an island here called Isla Cerralvo, and in Baja, it's kind of been a mystery for the last, so there used to be mantas all the time in this place, and around 20 years ago, they just disappeared. The mantas just left. And so that's probably due to anthropomorphic, which means like human-caused pressures, like fishing, boat activity, just things that can really disturb these animals and disturb their daily habits, their feeding, their routines. And so the mantas disappeared. But over the last like 5 years, Diego and Kiko, oh, I'm so sorry. Over the last like 5 years, they've been coming back. So it's really exciting for the people of Baja because this is a part of Mexico's natural heritage, the mantas are. And so we got to go out in the field and place some tags. We got to go out in the field and place some tags, satellite tags and acoustic tags. And we took measurements of the mantas, and the mantas that we met are actually named Maru and Pancho. And they've been around the area, they've been seen before, so they've already been documented, given their names. So we were really lucky to be able to kind of check in on Maru and Pancho and take their identification, take their measurements, get some tags on them. So now it's going to help us to start understanding better the mystery of like, where did Baja's mantas go? So with this data, we're going to be able to know. So it was really, really exciting.
That's very cool. I have a very practical question for you. When you say you tagged a manta, what does that mean? What does it entail to tag a manta?
Sure. So tagging a manta is basically, we have a couple different kinds of tags. They range from function, from like I was telling Tim earlier, to just where you can get a ping, like a ping from an animal that's months old, to where you can follow an animal in real time. And it just varies, So we had satellite tags and acoustic tags. So satellite tags function as they sound like with satellite. So we can pull up this map and we'll get our data and we can kind of follow the mantas. And those tags can stay anywhere up to 6 months on the animal, sometimes longer, sometimes less. It all kind of depends on the placement of the tag. And so what we do is there's an area in the back of the mantas, which you'll see in pictures, like once I start showing the manta photos, where there's like a V pattern, and we put the tag next to the V pattern. And I've been told that it feels like a bee sting, but obviously the mantas can't tell us that. But it's a minimally invasive procedure, which means that we are kind of getting in the animal space, but it's all done very carefully and by experts. And the mantas have like a hard cartilage in that area, so it's not anything that will hurt them or be very painful to them, and it's safe for the tags to be there for the long term. So we put those tags there, and hopefully we'll have some data soon, some more knowledge about where they're going.
That sounds amazing. I think
it's really cool.
Yeah, for many of us who did not grow up around the ocean, or maybe have not had the experience to scuba dive or spend much time underwater, just the image you showed of, I think it was maybe you snorkeling next to the whale shark.
The whale shark.
Being in the water with such a large creature, even though we know whale sharks are not really interested in eating or attacking people, has to be kind of intimidating. Are you ever scared to be in the water in this like totally new underwater environment full of so many creatures?
Yeah, because I feel like anytime anyone tells you they're never scared, it's not true, because fear is something that humans have been evolving as long as we've been humans, because fear helps keep us alive. Fear tells us like when it's time to run or when we're not safe. And it's, at first, it was definitely the first time I ever dove with bull sharks. My heart was beating so loud. I could hear it. I know they could hear it, not hear it, but sense it. They could sense like the electricity that I was giving off. I was just like, oh my gosh, they're so big. So there's always kind of that knowledge, that you're there with something totally different from you and totally alien. So it can be intimidating at first, but it's just more than anything, it's just like so magical. It's so peaceful. And when they're interested in you, normally they don't care. Like it's so hard for them, like for me to feel like they're paying any attention because they're just doing their thing, they're just doing their sharky thing. They don't care what I'm doing. So I'm having a great time and they're, I hope, having a great time. But
just doing their sharky thing. I like
just
that.
doing their sharky thing.
I have a million more questions for you, but we have a classroom that is joining us today, Miss Keefe's class, calling in from Massachusetts, and I want to add them to our conversation. Hi, Miss Keefe's class.
Wow, hi.
Lots of very, very excited arms. It's very, very nice.
Sorry, I realized we were.
Yeah, it's really, really nice to see you. And I know you're all fourth graders in Massachusetts, right?
Yes, we are. Sorry, I'm like I can't get there. We are fourth grade in Westford, Massachusetts.
Fantastic. Well, it's so nice to have you here. And I don't know about you, but do you have questions? I mean, you get a chance to ask Jane, this amazing marine researcher, some questions about what you said. Would anyone like to ask her a question?
All right. Is there a band kid before? We have a few kids going to band in a couple minutes, so unfortunately they'll miss the end of this. But I'll call a couple of them before they go. Who's the band kid that had a question? All right, Emily.
I was a band kid too.
Oh, good. All right, here comes Emily. So come up here so she can see you. Oh, everyone else is quiet.
What's your favorite animal that you've seen so far?
Hi, Emily. The manta ray is my favorite animal for sure. I've seen a lot of really cool animals. I've got to swim with like whales and dolphins and all different kinds of sharks, but manta rays have the biggest brain to body mass ratio of all fish, which means that compared to their body, they have the biggest brains. So they're really smart. They have friends just like us. Like they have really complex social behaviors and they see you. When you're with them, they see you. They will come like look at you. They'll come right up to your face. And it's just the best thing ever for me. What's your favorite?
I would probably say maybe a seahorse.
I love seahorses. That's a really good choice.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Can we call a couple more up? Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Perfect. All right, let's have, who else goes to band? Because the other kids, okay, all right, why don't you come on up? And then any other band kids have a question, bring it to me.
So do you just like explore in the Mexican Ocean or do you explore in like other oceans?
So that's a really good question. I've actually been lucky enough to do some work in Costa Rica too, and that's like also it's called the Eastern Pacific. So I've gotten to do like a bit of varied work, but the majority of my work has been in Mexico, and that can be typical for a lot of scientists depending on what they study. Like, for example, if you're an oceanographer, you might focus very heavily on one area and then become an expert. So you don't move that much. But I study highly migratory animals, so I go where they go. It's really nice.
Cool. All right. Thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.
My band kids, you're going to need to go quietly, but you can bring me any questions you have. Anthony, do you want to come up and ask one? You don't go to band, right? Come on up. Band kids, you're walking quiet. Anthony's on his way up. Sorry.
No. Hi, Anthony.
Everyone else is quiet, please.
So how do you study sea animals if they need water?
So that's actually why it's been really hard to study sea animals. And that's why over the last like 50 years, 20 years, like as science progresses more, like and our technology gets better, we get better. So putting tags is one of the ways to know, because obviously we can't follow the mantas around, wherever they're going, like in the really deep ocean. I can't go there. I wish I could, maybe one day. But right now, no. So tags are a great way to do that. It's actually one of the best ways we have right now is tags and something called citizen science, because so many more people are getting in the water now. We can kind of get help from other people taking pictures of the animals and reporting on the animals. So it's just a huge effort, from everyone. And technology really helps.
Thank you. All
Thank you.
How much time do we have for more questions?
You know, we have got probably about 15 or 20 more minutes, so
Oh,
I'm hoping we can ask and answer as many questions as possible.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
We have a few more. All right, Katie, come on up. Katie's next.
How long have you been a marine scientist?
Hi, Katie. Not that long, actually. I started working in marine science in 2019. I got my first job. But prior to that, I actually wanted to be a physician's assistant. I don't know if you guys have heard of that job. It's really different than the job I have now. And I basically changed my whole life after I went on my, sorry about the dogs, Chico and Diego. I was gonna say they can say hi quick. But I basically went back to school and I changed my undergraduate degree and to focus in marine ecology, which is what I do now. So not for that long, about 3 years.
Great question. Well, our next question asker is coming up. I'll add a question from our online audience. There's a question from Christopher for you, Jane. What do manta rays eat?
Oh, that's a great question, Christopher. Manta rays eat plankton, and the technical term for that is called nectonic life. Nectonic and planktonic life, which basically means like plankton, which are small copepods, and zooplankton, which are bigger organisms. I'm so sorry. Diego and Kiko. Sorry. So yeah, small fishes, but mostly plankton. They're filter feeders, just like whale sharks.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Miss Keefe's class.
This is Adia.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you only do research on ocean animals?
Yeah, I only do research on ocean. Well, actually, that's a good question, Nadia, because I did something different last year. When I worked in the Amazon, I almost forgot. How could I forget? I was studying fishes, and they were freshwater fishes from a lake called Laguna Limancocha, which basically is like green lagoon. So it was really, really green, I guess, as you can imagine. And that was things like piranhas and different catfishes and different freshwater fishes. So I've done some other work, but all with fishes. And sharks are actually fishes. I don't know if you guys knew that, but just fishes.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thea, come on up.
What is the weirdest marine life animal you've seen?
The weirdest. Oh, that's a good question. You know what? I would say the weirdest would have to be, it wasn't like a marine animal, but it was in the Amazon. They have armored catfish. So instead of scales, the catfish have these really hard plates, like called armor. And I saw an armored catfish that was like 4 feet long. It was huge. Like totally alien. That's definitely the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Wow. That is weird for sure.
Yeah, I had no idea that even existed until I saw it come out of the lake.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're studying animals in our class, so
Oh, really?
yeah, lots of different. Well, not everyone, but most kids have chosen animals for their research. So.
Yeah.
All right, this is Angela.
So hi.
Hi.
I have a question. So what has to be like? Where did these manta rays actually come from?
That's a really good question. That's what we're trying to figure out. It's hard because manta rays we've only been studying manta rays for like 15 years. So before then, like people knew that manta rays existed, but no one paid that much attention to them. So some manta rays are resident, which means they stay in one area like for their whole life, more or less. And that's more with one of the species of mantas called reef manta rays. So they stay, but oceanic manta rays undergo long migrations over like many different countries, just a huge, huge journey. So they come from all over, and hopefully we can figure out where they're coming and going from in the Caribbean, which is the main focus of my work over the next 2 years.
Cool.
Does that answer the question at all?
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Well, we're waiting for the next
Yeah.
speaker from Miss Keefe's class. Jane, I have a question from you who, based on the name, maybe from somebody you know. Debbie would like to know what your favorite thing about the manta ray, what a manta ray is.
That's my mom. So hi, Mom. Thank you for tuning in with the class today. Hi. Oh, you're fine. Don't worry. My favorite thing about the manta rays is just how curious they are. Like you get in the water with manta rays, and like I said, like they will come up to you and like look at you and investigate you, and that's not common with a lot of ocean creatures. Like I said, sharks are just doing their thing; they don't care what I'm doing. But the manta rays are very like investigative, so it's nice.
Wonderful. All right, Miss Keefe's class, we're ready for you.
Mohammed.
Hi, Mohammed.
Your second favorite like animal, like your second favorite that you have seen.
Oh, my second favorite. Actually, so my second favorite are a fish. They're small fishes. They're called molejinos, but it's actually a sergeant major is the name of the fish. They're like this big, and they're purple, and they have black stripes. But I have good luck every time I see like a huge swarm of them. So I love seeing them now because I'm like, something good's gonna happen. Like I'm gonna see something awesome. It's just a weird favorite, but they're really cute. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
Thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah, good question. While we're waiting for our next question asker, Jane, I have heard you speak very fluently in Spanish to your dogs and name them the names of fish, and you are obviously on a Fulbright grant in Mexico. So I'm curious, how much Spanish do you speak, and do you use Spanish on a daily basis to conduct your fieldwork and do your studies?
Yes, that's actually why I learned Spanish. I knew that I wanted to study manta rays, and most manta rays are located approximately in Latin America. So I've been learning Spanish for about 3 years, and now I'm doing a master's degree, and all of my classes are in Spanish. I give my presentations in Spanish. So I'm not great at all, but I'm trying. Luckily, people are really patient with me and really willing to help me learn. So, but my dogs are both from here, so they're native Spanish speakers.
Native speakers.
Yeah, they're native speakers. But yeah, I use a lot of Spanish, and it's been difficult at times, but it's a really fun process just because there's so many different things you can do in the Spanish language that you can't do in English. So it's really cool. It's been really nice.
Cool. Miss Keefe's class, do any of you speak Spanish?
Anyone speak Spanish? I do a little bit.
Yeah? Hola.
Oh, yeah.
Hola.
Hola, amigos.
My daughter speaks. In fact, the other night we had to speak Spanish at home because she was doing a presentation. So I had to remember my Spanish from high school.
Practice.
Long
Yeah.
time ago. All right, we have one more question from our class. So this has been
Sure.
What gave you the courage to give what made you want to work on manta rays and stuff?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think I mentioned, or when we were talking a little bit with Tim, I was taught my whole life to be afraid of sharks and mantas and things in the ocean, you know, because everyone always just said it's scary, it wants to eat you, you don't know about it. But in like 2019, or 2018, sorry, I realized I really loved these animals and I was really curious about these animals. And so I just wanted to know more about them. And I just thought, you know, so many other people do it and they are brave enough, you know, like why can't I be brave enough? Like I can be brave enough. So it was just a process, you know, like obviously it's really scary if you see like a huge shark coming towards you because you're conditioned to be afraid, you know. But it's just, you have to tell yourself, like, it's just doing its sharky thing. It doesn't care what I'm doing. It doesn't want to eat me. Like, so it's just a constant thing where you're telling yourself, you know, like, I'm not afraid. I don't have to be afraid. Everything's fine. So it's a practice for sure.
awesome. Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
the question.
Yeah. Wonderful questions. That's it from your students, Miss Keefe?
I think so. We got on questions.
All right.
Oh, Angela, you get one more?
All right.
I think we have one last one. Sorry, I thought we were done.
No,
One
we
last
love
No.
questions.
Yeah, we love questions.
So it's sort of off topic, but
Okay.
this other guy who's like does similar stuff to you. Do you know who Coyote Peterson is? Oh, coyote.
Yes, yes. You know what? Because I saw a video of him like getting bit by a bullet ant. And have you seen that video?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the Amazon, one time I was eating breakfast and like one of my teachers just started running towards me and I was like, what's going on? And he like smacks my neck and I was so confused. He was like, there's a bullet ant crawling up your neck. And I was like, oh. So if you guys don't know about bullet ants have like the most painful sting in the entire tropical rainforest. You hallucinate for 2 days, like really, a really painful sting. So that's how I know who Coyote Peterson is. And I would say we're a little different. But he definitely is brave to some level. So
Cool. Good thing you got saved.
Yeah, just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
Nicholas, thank you so much for the great questions.
yes, thank you guys.
As you know, we're right on the beginning of our virtual exchange with Jane. She's got a lot more work that she's doing in Mexico. She's writing some tremendously wonderful articles with beautiful pictures about what she's doing each week at her Journey homepage on Reach the World. And I'm going to share that with you along the bottom one more time. So if you haven't had a chance to read some of her articles, make sure you check those out. And we're going to be doing more video calls like this with Jane from Mexico over the next few weeks. So I hope we get more chance to speak like this and we can dive more into the topic of Jane and her research. So why don't we say goodbye and thank you to Jane.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
We have some
Thank you
kids
all.
studying Mexico right now, actually. We're studying Canada and
Really?
Mexico. So half the class is going to
Wow.
become Mexico experts and the other half's Canada. So we'll know more about Mexico as well when we see you.
Awesome. You guys can teach me something next time.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thanks for
again.
joining us today. Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
guys.
Take care.
Bye.